Most things I learned in the military.
Well, good morning. I have two orders of business for you, and it's fairly important to us as they involve our relationship with Prime West. The state of Minnesota has issued requests for proposals from a number of health plans for the offering of both our SNBC product and our Minnesota Health Options and Minnesota Senior Care Plus products, which we currently are working with Prime West. Prime West is a sole source PMAP provider here in our community, of which we are a business partner. We are they are us. And so the process for reviewing the RFPs was fairly stringent this year. Unfortunately, I'm going to be limited on the information that I can share with you based on a confidentiality agreement that myself and our interview team had to sign to be able to participate. But I'll share with you as much as I can. So the process was that we were going to receive the RFPs. The counties would then do a review of those RFPs, a component of which directly relates to county services and supports for the products. Diane Winter, Lori Turnen, Ms. Loanne Shepard, and myself were our review team. We also had conversations with Region 6 and 8, which are MAXA regions, different counties, basically the southwest corner of this state. And that was recommended by the Department of Human Services. And so we had a number of conversations with them about what they're seeing in the RFPs and what we're seeing in the RFPs. Our score is independent for both of these products from the other counties, but what is something I'd like to communicate is we all chose the same provider to offer our services. And the reason that we chose that provider is through the review of the RFPs, they demonstrated a strong understanding of what rural Minnesota needs are and how to engage with the counties to provide for our constituents in a cooperative manner. I can't share with you the actual scores, but I can say that Prime West is a very high confidence level that they are the plan that we want to choose. And so the resolutions that I have before you are asking for your approval to accept the review team's recommendation to choose Prime West as our sole source provider of PMAP for Meeker County constituents for both the SNBC product, MSHO, and MSC Plus. It really was very apparent that they have a stronger understanding of the dynamics which occur in rural Minnesota. They've also demonstrated in their RFP that they have a strong understanding of the partnerships that can be benefit the individuals that are being served by those products with the county and the PMAP provider. An area of interest is their discussion about social infrastructure and how to invest in that and how to use that to the benefit of the customers. An area that was missing on a lot of the RFPs was that understanding of the uniqueness of two areas. One, that Minnesota is a county-driven social service system, and that there are unique components to Minnesota rural as compared to the metro urban environment. So that's about as far as I can go into the actual RFPs and what we've seen in the RFP. I wish I could share with you the scores and all of the comments that we've had, but unfortunately, until a contract is awarded, I cannot do so. So my request for you is first to ask that you approve Prime West as the one and only managed care provider for Minnesota's senior health options and Minnesota Senior Care Plus for MA recipients.
Would it be fair to say that their good understanding of what county needs are is because they are a county-owned?
Yes, they've demonstrated strong partnerships with the counties and really spoke to our unique needs and relationships in serving individuals. Yes.
How many years will this, is this an annual event or is
No,
this?
I believe this is a 4-year event.
And do we have that in the resolution? as
We do
part of
not,
the
we don't have
motion?
any control over that. That is all driven by statute and the state.
But it could be for up to 4 years.
It will be,
It will be for 4 years.
yes.
So basically what you're saying, every 4 years, it needs to be revisited per state statute,
Yes,
correct?
yep.
How many options were there available for companies that could provide this for us?
There were 5 options for the senior care product, 5 options for the senior care product, and there were 4 options for the SNBC product.
How
We are
many-
currently also in the process of reviewing RFP for family and children's
oh, okay.
as well.
How many years have we worked with this?
With Prime West, oh goodness, that's a good question. 12, I believe,
Okay.
12 or 13,
We
for
have a
quite some
history.
time.
We have, and it's a good history with this group?
We're owners of Prime West,
Okay,
yes. And we want to continue to have a sole source instead of have multiple source providers in Meeker County. There are some administrative burdens that come about because of having multiple source providers for us. There's an increased administrative cost because we're going to have to figure out how to serve those different plans. There's going to be different forms, different documents, there's going to be different billing mechanisms, et cetera, and that compounds the challenge. Also, the problem with not being sole source is we lose the intimacy that we currently have with Prime West for the resolution of any customer issues. Right now, if one of the Prime West members that is on one of these products, or anybody for that matter that's being served by Prime West, has an issue of a payment or a billing or not understanding the product, they call us. We work directly with Prime West. If they're working with another product, they would have to call them directly through their 1-800, likely bypassing us, and so they don't have that advocacy that provides that help in navigating, which is a pretty complex system. Also with that, they don't know where to call. Am I on Prime West, or am I on a different product, et cetera, and that creates some confusion as well for the customer. And so we believe that this is also going to be providing a better customer experience than having multiple health plans. There are some politics around this, so like everything.
oh, sure.
Obviously, right? The Department of Human Services has come out and has made statement that they're not going to be looking at sole sourcing for counties. However, there is a caveat, and since we're currently providing PMAP services via Prime West, they are the only plan that we're currently working with, and the review team, and with your acceptance of the review team's recommendation, the board has stated that we want to be sole sourcing. I think there's still some dynamics that are going to occur around that, and I think we need to have some further conversation, because there's a number of counties that are looking to join Prime West that are not currently sole sourcing, and their review teams, from what I understand, are excited about Prime West and may be recommending to their boards as well to accept Prime West as a sole source. The Department of Human Services might not accept their request to be sole sourcing, and there's going to be some litigation likely as a result of that. And that's kind of the landscape. That doesn't really speak directly to our resolution, but
Yeah.
I want to
It's-
give you some background.
That's a hot topic in AMC, and
Sure is.
there's
Sure is. Yeah, and you know, stepping back, the reasons why we got into Prime West was because there were health plans. I'm not going to name names because reasons that were providing that PMAP service in counties, and they didn't find it profitable, and so pulled out and left the counties hanging. And so the counties decided to take matters in their own hands. One of the benefits of being a county-driven social service system is we have some autonomy to make decisions. Counties banded together and developed Prime West. And those same dynamics are still applicable today. And as I speak to some of our other county partners, they're stating that these are some of the issues that we're still facing. And that's what's driving them to Prime West.
Commissioner Bredesen, to answer your question specifically about how long we've been working with them, since 1998. Meeker County was one of the original members of Prime West.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
And that's been under review every 4 years ever since. Has that statute been around? Do we
Yeah,
know?
basically.
Do we know that?
Yeah, there's been some statutory enhancements to the counties being able to choose a sole source as well as choose county-based purchasing in defense and support of county-based purchasing. The last time we had a procurement such as this, they threw out the procurement process because it wasn't equitable or fair for the counties, and they recognized that. The Department of Human Services recognized that, and that's why they came back with this particular process to ensure there's a lot more transparency and clarity, and really paying attention to ensuring that there's not a conflict of interest as well.
The DHS component of this, where they interpreted that new rule or something that came down from the Fed. Is this gonna impact us in any way in the future in terms of that, or do we have to do any litigation, or is it all through Prime West that they'll be the ones? Cause basically, didn't they just come tell you guys right before you're gonna do the RFP that they're not allowing you to do a sole?
Without having spoke to the county attorney specifically about that, there could be litigation that could be derived by this, which we may be required to be involved in. I would bet that Prime West is going to be willing to take on that fight with us or for us. We don't know.
They haven't said anything. Wasn't there a letter sent that you?
So we were able to navigate through the legal concerns by following a strict process. And so the result is something that I don't think we're going to be pursuing litigation at this point, but
The question about if this resolution is approved and the Department of Human Services chooses to make sure we're not a sole source county, or chooses to choose a health plan to provide the PMAP services different than what we're recommending or the board approves, could potentially be a point of contention for us as to what is the board's authority in making this decision.
However, by statute, and when you read the statute, we do have that authority within
I
our
would
county.
agree with you, but that doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't mean,
We're waiting, it's at a judge now, they want a summary judgment stating that, no, let's just follow the statutes. And we haven't had that issue yet.
So nothing's been resolved on that issue, and it's gonna be ongoing for a while.
Part of the
proceeding.
challenge is there are some things that are occurring that Commissioner Johnson is well aware of by his role on the board of Prime West that I'm not aware. During this process, I've had to be very conscious about not having communication with Prime West for any perception of breaching my confidentiality agreement or creating a conflict of interest. So I'm not as versed as I'd like to be on that component of it. I'm just trusting that Commissioner Johnson is on top of it. I'm sure he is.
They
It
are.
sounds like he is, so.
You know, Prime West is taking on and two other ones also. So it's not just us alone. We have bandwidth.
It's Itasca Health as well as South Country Health
Yes.
Alliance and Prime West.
and
And I believe Hennepin Health may as well, I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
in the matter of trying to stay on schedule here, we'll move forward from this, cause a lot of this is there's gonna be further information. AMC's working on it, legislators are well aware of it. I mean, it's gonna be discussed
Would you like to take these
individually.
individually?
Yes, please, because we
Okay.
want to make sure that they're very clear.
Okay, move to approve a resolution approving Prime West as the sole managed care organization for Minnesota Senior Health Options and Minnesota Senior Care Plus managed healthcare services for medical assistance recipients in Meeker County.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
Second?
And a second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. And we have, that is a resolution. Corey, would you take the roll call, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Schiefelbein?
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes,
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes. All right. And with that, we'll move on to the next resolution, Paul, that you have on for us.
So everything I just said
Yeah.
works for this one too. Instead of working with seniors, the SNVC product works with individuals that are on a PMAP, a prepaid medical assistance program plan, that are under 65 and have an identified disabling condition that's a qualifier for this support service.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
move
sir.
to approve a resolution approving Prime West as the sole managed care organization for Minnesota Special Needs Basic Care Managed Healthcare Services for medical assistance recipients in Meeker County.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson. Looking for a second.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. And Corey, will you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Bredesen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes,
Commissioner Schiefelbein?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, that's all we got for you today, Paul.
I will likely be bringing another resolution for a PMAP provider after we conduct our review, and that's for the family and children's component of PMAP offerings. It's the same review team that is going through this, and we are also communicating with other counties. So, as I hear more about where the contracting goes, we'll also keep you informed about what's occurring there as well.
All right.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Paul.
You didn't sound like a bug to me.
Smash
Smash bug or
It was a heck of
whatever.
a race this morning. Thank you.
That's the way.
Hey, look at this guy, he's right on time.
I know.
I, that's,
Good gracious.
Sabotage.
I thought Beth's voice sounded a little different, and then I looked up and
Uh-oh.
now I understand.
Oh, you thought Beth had a cold?
Yeah.
and a beard.
And a bit.
We better not.
Sorry, Beth, sorry. Probably just ruined her morning. All right.
Good morning, Phil Schmaltz, Meeker County Public Works Director. 3 items for you this morning. The first one is to consider a resolution, basically declaring deficient bridges in Meeker County. This is a planning tool, funding tool that we use to plan future bridge replacements. So based on sufficiency ratings that come from our annual inspections, that's how we populate this list. Bridges we expect to need replacement in the future. Those dates, I'd say the 2022 and 2023 structures you see are pretty much what we're pursuing. Once you get out beyond 24 through 27, that might move depending on future inspections and condition, how it fails more quickly or slower, I guess. And the funding splits, that's basically us targeting as much state money as we can for these bridge replacements. Township bridges have access to town bridge funds, which is gas tax money essentially. County structures have access to state bond money, which that's available as the state funds that pot.
So Phil, when you did your inspections, by and large, we have safe bridges, it's just coming up on end of life.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, once in a while, like the one you see on Banana Township, 592nd, that's a
Good
bridge
question.
that actually has a timber member that is failing.
Oh,
But I'd say that's not the most common failure type. It's just bridges getting old, reaching at nearing end of life. And our bridge inspection program is pretty conservative. They kind of retooled it after 35W. And if we say a bridge is nearing the end of life, you know, there's some conservative assumptions in there.
Okay, thank you.
So it's not like they're an imminent failure anytime soon or anything like
How
that.
is the funding determined? I look,
Mhm.
take that Manana Road, for example. How is the township versus local state aid, how is that determined, how much you get for each project?
Yep, so the programs, townships will typically access town bridge funds. And townships are responsible for the first $10,000 of non-participating construction costs, which is costs not directly related to the structure itself. Like for that Manana Bridge, $1,000,000, they'll cap that 10,000 or they'll max that out pretty quick. But then the town bridge account pays the remainder. So townships get a pretty good deal when it comes to bridge replacements.
Okay.
Counties, we deal with state bridge bonding, and that can be a moving target, but it's typically the state bond funds will cover up to 50% of eligible items. So usually less than half of a bridge cost.
Phil, is that, the Manana, that gonna be a bridge, or do you know what the plan is there for that? Is that?
I expect it to be. We just started soliciting proposals from a couple of consultants for a design package. But I'd expect it to be a bridge. That's a pretty long span.
That's for those of you who don't know, that's the Crow there, and there's a lot of volume in
Yep.
there, yeah. It's a big crossing there, so. And you had
Is
something
that
on 14?
CASA 14 the same one as our culvert?
That's a culvert. CASA 14 and 21 are culverts.
But is it the same one that,
Yep.
by the lake? That's the one.
Yep, that's Lake
That's what
Washington
you're
and
at.
Stella.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is that the extra cost, just is there a structure over the top then too of the culvert? I thought it was just a culvert underneath.
It's a culvert, but there's pavement cost in there too. Or what do you?
Because I thought it was estimated at 30,000 or something like that or something, the culvert replacement portion.
That was the cost of the culvert itself, wasn't it?
I'd expect the cost of the culvert itself to be 80,000.
80.
Be my rough
Huh,
off the
don't
top of my
I-
head.
Yeah, that's ringing a bell with me too, but I don't know.
Are you thinking about maybe the increased cost? Cause I thought we talked about $20,000, the increase.
Is that what it was?
That's
From
what
a larger structure.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, box culverts between $100,000 and $150,000 is typically where they fall.
Okay, that's what it was. It was the increased difference and is what it was.
Yep, that rang a bell.
You thought it was gonna be closer to less than that, 30,000 though, right?
20.
20
was
is what
I
you
was
thought,
thinking.
yeah. Okay, that's all I had.
All right,
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approval of the resolution identifying deficient bridges.
motion by Commissioner Shifelbein. Look for a second.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen. And that is a resolution.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes,
Commissioner Shifelbein,
Yes,
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes. All right, next item, Phil.
Next item I have is to consider the award of our 2022 seal coat contract. See the prices up top, the low bid was about 40% higher than our estimate. And I'll tell you, our estimate is based on what we budgeted last year. We knew prices were gonna be high. But, I would say I wasn't too surprised by being 40% over our estimate. That's in line with what I was kind of targeting after talking to some of the neighbors and seeing the numbers they came up with this spring. That works out to about $27,000 per mile. Historically, we pay about $19,000 a mile on a chip seal. And what I hear from contractors, it's labor, equipment, fuel, everything costs more, so that's the cost of doing business, if they can get the oil. There's a little bit of a shortage there depending how people proceed or not proceed with their contracts. In my opinion, I know it's more than what we had budgeted or what we were anticipating. I think the benefit of proceeding with the work is still warranting that we go forward. The roads we have targeted are, I'll show them here. You can kind of see them in yellow, but one, that's a new overlay that we put down last year. That and then 6, that's new pavement. On new pavements, what that seal coat is gonna do, especially year 1, is it seals in the oil, keeps it from leaching out into the atmosphere, keeps your asphalt more pliable. It can get brittle as it dries out. And what I understand, I mean, the studies that I follow the closest with seal coating is the sooner you cover it, the better. because you lose a lot of that, surface oil year 2 and 3. So I wanna proceed with those, and then 35 was a pretty heavy, crack sealing operation that our maintenance crews did last year, and I wanna get that protected too. So I didn't really have any roads on the docket that I thought I could pull from our proposal, that's why I'd like to proceed.
Is this the scaled down version, or this is the version that was bid?
This is what was bid.
Okay.
Yep, and if we would wanna talk to the contractor about reducing roads, depending what we did, they would probably be in the right by asking for a new price. As we mess with quantities, that affects their contract
Well, and
size.
I don't feel that it, the cost of replacing a road hasn't gone down either if the cost of maintaining it has gone up. So I mean, it's still apples to apples comparison, so nobody likes the price tag.
So $27,000 a mile to properly maintain it versus how much a mile to replace if we don't maintain, you know?
Yeah, on a reclaim project, I used to use $300,000 a mile, and I'd say that's a little low now. I think we're at 315 with this year's reclaim projects.
So it sounds like a good investment, even though it's more than we thought.
You won't realize it until the end of the life of that road, but I still think it's money well spent.
Is there any historical data that shows that we're, like a scenario like we've had in the last year where the price has actually gone down from, from oil prices being over $100 a barrel, then they've sunk down to 20-some bucks? Has there been a big price decrease ever in terms of all this stuff for you going from one year to the next?
On seal coats, not that I can recall. On projects in general, I think reclaims is kind of my benchmark because we do a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
They went up a little bit when fuel was high back in 2009 or 10 was it? They were high and then came down a little bit following that.
But nothing significant.
It wasn't huge. Would I expect seal coats to cost less next year? If I was gonna make a wager, I would say yes. Do we lose out on that protection of that new, fresh crack sealing and pavement? Yes. In my opinion, I don't think it's worth the gamble. And we'll still have new needs next year, so the program will just get that much larger if we wait.
Funding. You mentioned here funding sources from the state aid maintenance program. Because of these exorbitant increases, which of course none of us could foresee, will we be eligible for a little more assistance with that, or?
Our state aid dollars are fixed depending on what goes into that trust fund, fuel taxes and things like that, so no, that's fixed. I expect this will push us into using a little bit of our reserves.
You mentioned that if they can get the oil, is there a chance that this project won't get done simply because they can't get the product?
I was told they can get product on this one.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions on seal coating? I'd look for a dismal approval or a motion on the seal coat contract at increased price.
Nobody wants to take responsibility for that. I looked at
Oh, we
that
all
and
take
I wrote,
responsibility.
ouch,
Yeah.
ouch.
Move to award the 2022 seal coat contract to Pearson Brothers of Hanover, Minnesota for an estimated cost of $667,745.52.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Bredesen on the award of the Pearson Brothers seal coat contract. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, Phil, we'll move on to happier news I hope you have for us.
A little bit better.
You might not have picked the best day to bring that one forward,
What's today?
You'll find out in a little bit.
Okay.
I've got my car.
That's a nice segue. Doggone, I'm losing it. The chair gave you some powers over you.
Oh, sorry, Phil.
It's okay.
I'm kidding.
So the last item
Sorry.
I have for you is to consider the award of our 2022 highway safety improvement projects. we've got two different projects listed under a single contract. At the top, you'll see our bid prices we got, a little more reasonable, 4.5% over what our engineer's estimate was. And 90% of this is funded by federal safety dollars, Highway Safety Improvement Program, that's where HSIP comes from. It's a program that we tap almost every year. 124 miles, the first project is a 6-inch edge line, that's our standard latex paint, short life. We can use it as we can put it down as part of a safety program on certain roads that meet risk criteria for run off the road crashes. So basically by us putting down a 6-inch instead of 4-inch line, we can use federal dollars to do that. The project number 015, that is a ground and wet reflective type of edge line that's also 6 inches wide, but it's ground into the pavement, it's epoxy, a high solids based paint. Life is much longer, I expect to get 7 to 10 years out of it. So obviously it costs more per mile, and it's very vibrant. Like if you see a road that has ground and wet reflective in the rain or in the dark when it's wet, it's obviously much more brilliant, it shines much better. And that project also was 90% federal highway safety funds. And the way we decide which one we target is based on basically the risk rating of each road, run off the road crash risk. So not every road is eligible for ground and wet reflective because it's not a high enough risk level.
So I think last year you astonished us with how many gallons this 100 and some 24 miles is gonna take. How many gallons are we talking this year?
I think it's 17.5 gallons per mile of the 6-inch. Anybody got a calculator handy?
Oh, let's
Let's use 20 gallons times 200 miles. You're
17.5.
million? Oh, yes, gallons per,
Times,
About 3,000.
3,000, okay. 3,000 gallons of paint.
Phil, I was just curious, I know transportation is a big topic too in St. Paul. Have you heard anything through engineers or county engineers as far as increased funding for any? I mean, it'd all be speculative at this point, but I think there is energy there for dollars.
There is, I haven't, early on in the session, they were talking pretty positively of, what were they trying to access? The vehicle parts sales tax? I think?
Yes, yeah.
Lately, I've heard less positive information about that as far as agreement on both sides to include that in their bills.
Okay.
So I don't have any real great optimism for anything.
Speaking of that one, the AMC sent out a notice yesterday that provision passed out of the Senate with really strong bipartisan support, but it hasn't come up in the House yet. So, and the House, when they had batted it around, had a significant portion going towards transit. The Senate version didn't, although there was an amendment to include, to basically mirror what the House has discussed, and it failed in the Senate. So,
So when it went through the Senate, Andrew, did you happen to see, was it Newman's bill or was it the other bill? Because the other bill had already split out percentages, remember?
this one split out percentages.
It is, so it's the other one that's got the momentum.
Whatever, I'm sure there was negotiation between
Yeah.
Senator Newman.
Well, as you recall, when we visited with Senator Newman, he just wanted one of the two to go. He wasn't even hard set on his own bill.
It was Senator Howe's bill.
House, yes,
Howe.
yeah. So he just wanted one of them to get through the,
Well, I knew there was a lot of support in the Senate.
I had more township stuff
yes.
involved,
Yep.
which is fine in my mind.
It's
So
needed.
I wouldn't have cared either.
I think it was 12% to townships, 12%
This
to
was
cities.
86% to HUT.
Oh,
There was an amendment to apportion 40% of the revenue for transit, 36% to Metro, and 4% to Greater Minnesota. That's what failed, but that's what the House had been looking at, so that's the question of what's going on there. It's also an individual bill, it's not part of the larger omnibus, so there's question of whether or not it'll make it through because of that as well.
Give me those percentages in the House version at 30. I
36,
heard the 4. outstate.
36% to Metro Transit, 4% to Greater Minnesota Transit.
All right, well, we talked that to death, I think, so, we'll look for a motion to approve the, highway safety improvement marking contract.
Mr. Chair, move to award SP 047-070-014 and SP 047-070-015 to Sir Lines, a lot of Edina for an estimated cost of $411,927.44.
Motion by Commissioner Shifelbein. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen.
One question, have we used this company before?
Close. I was gonna comment on that. So Sir Lancelot has bid on our work in the past and generally not been successful. They purchased, can't remember the name, AAA Striping, who we've used many, many times.
Okay.
So we'll probably be seeing a lot more of Sir Lancelot. Essentially, it's AAA doing the work under a different name.
Okay, cause we had somebody a year or two ago who kinda gave us wavy lines, wasn't it?
That was a township road.
Oh, it was, okay,
I don't
Okay.
know who did the paint, but that was not us.
checking, okay.
Must have been in your district.
It wasn't our contract or anything. Nothing to do with that.
Okay,
it
good.
I heard they originated from a local establishment. So,
Any further pertinent discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the highway contract, marking contract, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right,
I-
this is my segue part.
Yeah.
I told my staff,
Where it
I
could
gave
get
some boxes and
contentious.
said, if they don't come back, just pack it in and send it.
It's been a good,
Ticket back
it's
to
been a good
McLeod
4
County.
years.
Yeah, it's been a nice run.
Well, if Danny finds out that you committed to $6 million yesterday at that with MinDOT, he's not gonna vote for it.
6 million, is that where we're at?
Oh, holy.
You were supposed to be there, I needed your help.
I had to tell him I could not, I didn't even make it to my kid's music concert yesterday, which I'm still
Does he know?
reeling from.
Does he know?
Yeah, you know, right for the principal. Thanks, Dad, for not showing up. I got there with his last thing, whatever.
Are you still afraid of the principal?
I'm not afraid of the principal. I'm afraid of someone else.
So, Mr. Chair, if you mind,
I do not.
then every 4 years, county engineer needs to be reappointed by the county board. Statute states that it needs to occur in May of the year to which the reappointment is due. By happenstance, Phil happened to be appointed in May, so it just kind of all lines up that way nice for us. So I had a couple things I wanted to say before I turn it over to you. So first off, over the past 4 years, I think Phil has done a fantastic job, even though I've only been here for the last year of it, but you can see the seeds of everything he had done up to that point. Our road system has remained well maintained, and we've of course leveraged a lot of state and federal funding rather than local sources where possible, and that's obvious by the fact that we haven't had to tap into some of the revenue sources that we've discussed. Phil's a forward-thinking leader looking for ways to leverage technology in our operations to become more efficient. He's recognizing the challenges his department will be facing in the future and looking to, and through his leadership, will be able to effectively tackle those challenges, looking at kind of those long-term planning for our road system and then also the maintenance side of things as well. Of course, we regularly hear positive feedback of Phil's interactions with the public and our township partners. And because of that, I'm very pleased to recommend that Phil be reappointed as the county engineer for another 4-year period.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing almost, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I'm just trying to figure out how to segue into the next one.
Yeah, I know,
You
exactly.
kind of wrecked it all.
You have any words on your own behalf?
I didn't expect to speak about this. I've enjoyed being here. It's been enjoyable, I think, to learn the system, try and manage the system. There's definite challenges, but some of that is, challenges aren't always negative.
Probably one of his biggest challenges is learning this board.
Right here.
He's
Mr.
nodding,
Chair.
so I don't know, that's a.
Mr. Chair, move to approve a resolution reappointing Phil Smalls as county engineer.
I have a motion by Commissioner Johnson. I'd look for a Second, and it's not a resolution,
I'll
It is a
second
resolution.
It is.
It is a
It
resolution.
is.
It's not marked.
I'm sorry.
oh, no, we're good. Do I have a second? Did I get
Yes.
one? Julie?
Second that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Bredesen to reappoint Paul, and then, Corey, would you, actually, I just wanted to make a comment before we move into the vote. Phil came just a little bit before I did too, and I think, you know, jumping in both feet in the fire, kinda, you had some, challenges to overcome, and I think you've always kept, a good attitude as to if it's no, it's not no forever. It's how do we do it and how do we accomplish it? And I think you've always kept that foresight and that vision moving forward, even if it's not the path that you maybe anticipated. So I appreciate the work you've done for the county. And I travel a lot of county township roads, especially west in the spring, delivering seed, and we can feel pretty good in our townships and across the county that we've got pretty good roads overall. Even our secondary and minimum maintenance roads are the higher standard than a lot of our neighbors around. So I appreciate your work. And I think the townships also, their work with you has been echoed to me that they really appreciate it. So
Huge upgrade.
the only other,
Relationship with townships, I can
Yeah,
tell you that
yeah.
from a township person, huge.
we had a lot of work to do there, and you're a vital part of that. And the only other thing I've got is, does Kurt Nestler have his speed control sign yet in Watkins? So I don't,
It's supposed to, it's not up yet. We're supposed to have it pretty soon though. We just talked to the manufacturer last week.
okay,
I think what was discussed, they asked if we wanted to rush. We said, no, just get it here. So I don't know if we have it in our building yet, but when we do, it'll go up.
okay,
It should be soon.
all right, excellent. Now I'm ready for a vote.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner Schiefelbein?
Yes,
Commissioner Bredesen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
thank you, Phil.
Back to work,
Thanks, Phil.
Phil.
Heck me up.
Spent all our money today.
We'll work on that.
All right, moving on. We'll move on to the administrator's report.
I have two things to update you on. First is, we had a positive development on the operation of the transfer station. The current operator has backed down for the demand for a new contract to be in place by the end of April. And we're working with them to reach a more reasonable agreement than what was originally proposed. If we cannot, then we will move forward with seeking the competitive procurement, the RFP process. But we want to work with them initially and see what they can offer us, and then we'll go from there. Second, on the sale of the 701 Sibley property, the closing was delayed as the purchaser and the city need to work out some sort of an agreement for the deposit of snow on the property. It's an issue that they're working out between themselves, and once I have an update on that, we'll move forward. So
What exactly does deposit of snow mean?
the
That-
city stores snow on the property, and the purchaser has a policy to not allow easements on their property. So that's what is being worked out. So.
I better not comment on that. All right.
That concludes my reports.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Let's go in numerical order. Julie?
Oh, okey-doke. Well, okay, yes, it is the 3rd of May. Here we had our regular meeting back on April 19th. Since then, shortly after, I had the Pioneer Land Library meeting that was held in Wilmer. Their auditing agency, which they've worked with for the past several years, their representative came and presented the annual audit, and all is well with the Pioneer Land Library system. They seem to be in good shape. They had a handout that night that I found very interesting. It included a whole bunch of statistics about Pioneer Land, and there are 32 libraries in the Pioneer Land system with 9 counties within that system, and there were 46,605 registered card holders within the Pioneer Land system. And they had almost 500,000 items that were checked out just last year. Some of those numbers I thought were staggering, and the company that they use for their annual audit does a really beautiful job and gave all of the board members a booklet that it was just very well done. Then we had our work session, which was here in the boardroom. Then shortly after that, the same day, we had the extension meeting that was held out at the fairgrounds. The extension committee has hired a full-time horticulture person. She will begin her position on June 13th, and she'll work in all 3 counties. The Farm Family of the Year was announced, and that will be announced upcoming, and they will be recognized at the county fair. The extension was included in an Arbor Day with 3rd graders around the county. They distributed over 300 trees for 3rd graders and had a nice project going in coordination with our schools.
Is there gonna be another wave of trees, or I was told, my son, the only reason I ask is cause my son went to get some trees and they told him to come back in like 2 weeks or a month or something, there'd be another shipment or.
That I'm not sure of. That might be a Soil and Water Conservation District question or phone call, because.
He went to the fairgrounds and he talked to them.
Yeah.
Just told him,
Yeah, we.
cause they were picked over a little bit or.
Yep, if they had extras, people can order, and if they had extras, then they could be sold to the public, but I don't know
Okay,
if they're going to
okay,
do that
that-
again, I'm not sure.
And I was probably only listening to his conversation. Similar to Danny and your son, you know.
Sure,
not making
yeah.
it At a concert.
Yeah. I made it to there, I just said I missed 2 out of 3 of the songs.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
But the state of Minnesota has 26,000 4-H members, and Meeker County has about 325. So we have, I had some numbers, and I just found them interesting. Then with public health, anyone over the age of 50, it's recommended now that you get your 2nd booster, and they're holding 2 Moderna clinics coming up now in the month of May. A week from today, on the 10th, at the Family Services Building, they'll have an open public health clinic from 9 to noon. And then on the 24th, Tuesday the 24th, at the Family Services Building, they'll have another open to the public clinic for boosters from noon to 3. And you can either access registration on the public health website or from the county website. And I believe that is my report.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie.
Yep.
Paul?
Well, CPT, we were down there. Andrew was also there because he's on strategic planning. The vote was to move to 1 director from the co-directorship, and they are going to post that job. They were working out the actual job description prior to posting, so I think they got that pretty well dialed in at the meeting, and they voted to approve it. So that will be a key thing there. The tax rewrite program, which has been going on for 8 years now, still is not done. So it's time that we move to 1 director, 1 person guiding this organization, because it's obviously not, we're not getting there if we worked on the same project for 8 years. So it will be good to see 1 leader at the helm there. Then courthouse security, we met, which was addressing some of the deficiencies that were found from an audit. We talked about the Safe and Secure Courthouse Grant. I have the amount written down that we received, and correct me if I'm wrong, and it's $33,750? Yeah, which we're using for some of the projects, such as the glass up above and the floor above us to protect people from being thrown over the railing by a deputy.
Phil was close.
What's that?
Phil was close.
And we talked about a fence around our utilities out back so that they can't be tampered with, and some film for the windows here, which came in almost double what we had estimated. So we're doing a little bit more research on that before we go forward with
Do
that.
every other window.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
Just make sure you're,
that one.
make sure you're standing at the right one in case it goes off.
Confuse the criminal.
Yeah. Disadvantage for me.
Then last Thursday, we had a UCAP meeting, and that one got interesting, and I'm just gonna read this so that I don't misspeak. There's pending legislation introduced by Senator Benson in response to the alleged fraud with Feeding Our Future. I believe that while the intent was good, the unintentional consequences are devastating to many nonprofit organizations in Minnesota. The language that is in this states that any nonprofit who has elected officials on their board of directors cannot receive state funding. Some of the funding that UCAP gets is federal, but it's a pass-through from the state, so they're not sure how that would affect that one. Community Action, or UCAP, is federally mandated to have a tripartite board of directors, 1/3 consumer sector, 1/3 private sector, and 1/3 public sector or elected officials. And they cannot change that mandate. So UCAP, public sector, is comprised of county commissioners, city council, and school board members. So this is a very important piece of legislation. And they are working very hard. She was at a town hall meeting on Saturday, and visited, with them. Our representative, Erdahl, understood fully that the language in this particular bill, would be very impactful. So, Deb also thanked him for, sponsoring the bonding bill for those 5 homes that we're working on, to pick up that gap finance, or gap money that we needed, so.
What file is that, a House file? He was House, you said, who was it?
Actually, it's Senator Benson.
Senator?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, so it's a Senate file?
Yeah, and it came up, my question immediately was, how did this bill get so much momentum just getting brought up so late in the session?
The same
Okay.
thing, the reason I'm asking if you had to file, I don't know if the file number is referenced in there, but
It's not.
Senator Andrew Lang from, Olivia, he's got one too, and because of this fraud, they're proposing they want to stop funding to all these nonprofits for 2 years if you don't have an audit done. And I got a phone call, I was sitting here for Grove City Care. They've got $80,000 a year budget, and you're gonna wipe them off the map with stopping their funding for 2 years. And, they can probably absorb a $5,000 audit every year, to get that done. But to say that you can't get any funds for 2 years until you have that audit done 2 years prior. So if you haven't had an audit done in the last 2 years, outsourced audit, you won't get any funding for the next 2 years until you have audit done, and that'll wipe some of these. I know what they're trying to accomplish, but what they're trying to accomplish is going to hurt the ones who are not fraudulent. I mean, the small little, the UCAPs, the little ones that do good work at a small regional level, and the ones that are committing a fraud, I think, are to the east of us.
And
over the ways.
I think a lot of us right here in this room are on nonprofit committees that get state funding of
I'm
some
on,
kind.
yeah, Grove, if that's what you're saying there, I couldn't, Grove City Care Board and.
Yep.
And so there's some, and I talked to Erdahl and Andrew Lang, and Andrew didn't think that, he said, actually, I don't think it's gonna pass. But
Well,
that still gets,
She
I
has,
can't tell you how many phone calls I got from Grove City Care, they're in frantic.
Deb did talk to this Senator Benson, explained what the ramifications were. And she said that she was gonna do the research and she would sponsor an amendment to her own bill on the floor if needed to change that part. Now, I hadn't heard about the one you had, so,
Benson, is that, oh, I know, she's running for governor,
is that the one?
Michelle Benson,
I suppose, yeah.
she's out Northwest. Okay, yep, I know, I met her through Farm Bureau. She's, Nathan, he's the district manager in Farm Bureau, or district representative, it's his sister, so. All right, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess with a month left, my greatest fear is that these things are gonna get tacked onto some other bill and ride through and get passage, and we're just gonna be left with the results.
It's hard to, it depends on what the House would do with them too.
Yeah.
but
The Senate file is 4359.
43,
59.
59.
And then the last thing, we had a highway department, meeting, highway and Minnesota Department of Transportation meeting yesterday, just to talk about the facility out there. They really don't have any interest, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, Andrew, but they really don't have any interest in adding any places, any storage or anything out there. So then we got more into discussing maintenance type things, such as the lighting, which is deficient out there, and the flooring, which needs to have a recoat to properly seal it. So I thought we worked out some things there that were gonna be beneficial. You know, it's different when they kind of take everything in. They really don't like to commit to anything. It's like, he did commit to paying 50% of the garbage bill. That was nice. Yeah, so, but they're very cautious because it appears that they would like to centralize everything more out of Wilmer. Would you say that was the truth?
The future that they saw was that any growth would be in the Wilmer.
Wilmer, yeah. So if we
I
have
don't think
to,
that necessarily means pulling things out of the Litchfield.
no, they didn't say that, but they did kind of indicate that any future growth was gonna happen in Wilmer. So if we're gonna look at moving and closing down some of these shops we have, we're probably gonna have to bear that cost ourselves. And so we're gonna have to weigh that one out pretty carefully.
Might be cheaper anyway, not dealing with MnDOT.
Yeah, because.
I don't know, I would, obviously you always wanna take some, but seeing that building and how tall it was and all that wasted space.
It was funny because, wasn't it Carlin who asked him, do you always build 28-foot ceilings? And the guy said, well, we gotta be able to lift the trucks up to service them.
But he said that 28 was not necessary. 20
No,
20
20
is what
would-
they build to.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well, it always baffles me that you have a building that size with a 16-foot door in the end.
Oh, I know, it's just a tiny,
I mean,
it's ridiculous.
Thread the needle going
It's,
through there.
yeah. That building, after walking, I was just like, holy crap, a tiny little thing. It's like going this in a big giant building. You have to back up. I was like, holy crap, I don't know. The guy
there's
who
multiple,
built that.
yeah,
the one thing they did indicate was that it would be nice if, we did do anything, if we did anything, that the state could all be in one building and the county could be in the other, which, well,
well, we
we're-
can fix that, kick them out.
Say that. Wouldn't have to do another building, right? They can centralize all to Wilmer then.
how much of the expenses at that building do they pay?
I don't know
I'd be curious to,
what the cost breakdown is. There's off the top of my head, I mean, we have agreements with them, so.
yeah.
I don't know.
We must share heat, we must share electricity, we must share maintenance costs, and so, might be interesting just to know, curiosity. But that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
That's quite a bit. Daniel?
Yeah, I keep mine a little briefer, cause I missed two of them. I missed extension and I missed the last one. But that one, the horticulture is 3/4. It's full-time 3/4 of the year,
Yeah.
right?
but she'll still work with the 3 counties.
Yeah.
And everything, but it was just for us, cause we're kind of working our way, maybe, we'll see how much.
And they're
we
waiting
get
for
there.
her to graduate?
She will graduate now in May and begin, it was some date in June.
Okay, yep. And then I missed that one, of course, too. And then the one I did go to is Woodland Centers, and which is about my most frustrating committee. They gave our CEO a 40% increase in salary, which I was the only one to have any dissenting comments about it. They actually voted with her in the room too, which I thought was kind of awkward, because
40%?
40%, because what Woodlands now is getting paid on is this new program, a federally funded program, and now when they get paid something, they get paid whole. there's a lot of good things in that program that they're doing, but the federal government will pay them whole. So if the cost is, say, $200, they will get $200. So now what they did at Woodland Centers is they rose all their salaries because of the retention problem and stuff, so they would get funded. And then she went through and found averages of, I think it was hospitals and mental health organizations and what their average salary is for that type, and use that as their baseline. And like I said, I was only dissenting voice because I was like going, you're comparing city places, which are a lot more costly in terms of living versus outstate Wilmer salary.
So she did the cost, or the salary comparison herself,
Yes.
so you had no
I didn't even
information
I didn't even know this was coming up until the end. It wasn't on the agenda, and it was advised by the executive committee to give this salary increase, which ended up being 45,000 increase from 140 to 185. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because they're using this cost relationship, and I'm thinking, okay, you're worried about your salaries and stuff, and I can see retention problems, which makes sense, but maybe you should be worried about the county end making us whole in terms of what rent we're getting. Because if they could have put that into the equation, why are we at a 90,000 discounted rate? If they're worried about that, why wouldn't they worry about their own customers? And so I actually called the board chair about this, my problems, and I called the CEO and I said my problems with this particular way. I said I didn't think it should have been, I think it should have been on the agenda. I think she should have been asked to leave when we actually were talking about it, because it's very uncomfortable for some people to openly talk about someone getting a raise, when they're in the room. And, there's a lot of things there that I'm struggling with, and I've told Beth, I had discussions with Beth about my frustrations with it too, because she is the board chair and she agrees with me on a lot of different parts. There's a culture change, I think, that needs to happen at the top, and it was just frustrating because I was only, like I said, I was the only one to speak up anything in terms of that, and it's like,
My question would be, barring no reimbursement from federal funds or wherever them dollars are coming from, would they
Yep.
have voted themselves or would they have
no,
gotten a raise
no.
based on that?
No. Now, some of it's is strategic because, like, if you have retention problems, and there is problems trying to get psychiatrists and everything else into mental health because it doesn't pay as good as a medical doctor, So that's where they're always kind of competing. You'd rather, if you want to make money, you go into the medical field, not the psychiatric care. If you're going to go get your doctor. And so there's the retention problem, but then it's just like going, this isn't kind of basically a good way to just give yourself a salary increase that might not be just, because we didn't have that great of a year last year as far as Woodlands. And I was just, and like I said, I told the CEO all my things, so I don't know if I'll get blackballed because of that, but I felt I needed to tell her that, and I told Beth all these same concerns, because I don't know, I'm just really frustrated with that organization because all the other board just rubber stamp it and move on. And the problem is, part of it too, is that I was always bringing up it's a nonprofit, but I was like, you should try to work as a profitable company, otherwise you won't be sustainable. And then they're talking the opposite, and 10 minutes later they're giving the CEO a $45,000 increase in salary. And I'm just like going, well, you could use that money to invest in more psychiatrists and pay them.
Program
Yeah,
itself.
because obviously right now it's not working, totally. So I don't know. I have a lot of frustration with that one because my dad was a lot of part of this Woodland Centers forever on the citizens board and stuff, and done a lot of work with it. And I don't know. The more I get involved, the more I get frustrated with them because we're still not providing a lot of services that we could. Part of it's due to employees, but I don't know. So that was my only frustrating, disgruntled committee
Black looks
report.
good on you, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I think
exactly.
you're comfortable.
Yeah, I know, but I think there's other things there. The CFO never shows up at the meetings, at the executive board meetings, and she's working from home and said it's COVID related, but she's been to one meeting before, which was a higher incidence of COVID. She didn't have a mask on, but that's what she's citing. And I told the CEO that too. And she's like, well, she has COVID. I was like, we're getting to that point where we're, it's a lot safer. And we had a meeting with her before, and she didn't even have a mask on there. It's frustrating because if I can't ask any questions about finances, I have a harder time to a computer than to a person. And that's what I told the CEO too, but I felt like it was on deaf ears, So, anybody else wanting to do Woodlands?
But that's an open meeting, right? I mean,
Yep.
so they have to follow some rules of order.
That's the frustrated thing. I told her, I was like, if this big thing was on the agenda, I could have prepared myself and I would have probably went out and researched salary prices myself rather than use her own. And it wasn't even on the agenda it was a review, but I don't know if review equals salary always usually or not.
Not necessarily.
Right. So I thought I called her out. I felt like it was a little backdoor kind of, oh, by the way, hey, everybody, I'm going to get a $45,000. Is everybody all right with that? And you wouldn't believe how fast. It wouldn't have changed anything. It wouldn't have changed. They would have all still voted for it. But I just felt.
Because there are other salary increases tied in with percentages, correct? I mean,
It wasn't even
she
big.
wasn't the only one.
Oh, no, the whole
That's what
staff
I'm-
got it. But this was more, I don't know if they're all that big, and I don't know how they're all justifiable, because we don't,
Was it the percent across the board?
no, they already got the
There were
rest of the
different
staff.
percentages for various.
I don't know
levels
that. I don't even know that part. That's the part. Then I'm like going, why is this being brought up? This is a huge number.
So does the revenue support this? I mean, are
The
you
only way the revenue
financially?
supports this is because of this new program that they're part of, the CCHBC.
And that will support this kind of an
Yes,
increase?
as long as it goes on, but you
Well,
never
see,
know with
If that
federally
program
funded.
ends or changes,
right.
people don't take decreases in salary at that point. Now you gotta find a new way to fund it.
And Beth, when I talked to Beth, she said she mentioned that in the executive committee to that, and then the CEO's like, they'll never end this program. So,
Well, it still comes down, is that the best way to spend?
exactly,
dollars,
it's still
I mean,
all of our dollars, and
I'm
if it's a
not arguing.
nonprofit, I hope, just don't use it as a salary grab, which is what I felt like, but I would feel like that no matter what, probably, that's my instinct. So, good or bad, but I don't know. I'm kind of frustrated with that, but I wanted to bring that up because I'm like going, okay, if you're worried about all these things and wanting to make whole, for all your staff, why don't you do that for your customers too in terms of rent? If you're gonna get it from the federal government, whatever anyway. Wouldn't you seek that out too, to make sure that, we're asking them to try to give us services and we're not getting all the services we want, wouldn't you at least do that for us? So I don't know if it's a point to bring up or not in terms of negotiations.
As we've talked about, all of those lease agreements, if we make changes over at that building, are gonna have to be reviewed. So that's the
Yeah,
time.
and I'm bringing it up because I thought,
Yep, it's a fair point.
after thinking about it, why wouldn't you make sure your customers are taken care of first?
Are we on a year-to-year lease with them, or what's our term?
It's an indefinite lease, but there's out clauses.
But it's not like there's a whole lot of other options out there either. That's what the frustrating part is. So there's not a ton of competition out there where we can go to somewhere else, so to speak, which frustrates me too. But this is just my take from that meeting, Beth would probably think.
How
a little
big is that
differently.
committee how many members?
I believe I think it's 7 counties and 2 commissioners per county,
Okay.
so, but like I said, Yeah.
And how many were in attendance, if I may ask?
I think there's probably about 9 or 10. You know?
So you had a quorum.
Yep, oh yeah, yep. And then, like I said, the executive committee met before, and then that was their recommendation. You know, and then she'll get a 6% increase next year also on top of that.
Yeah, see, that's the,
Because of
Yeah.
inflation or whatever, I'm like,
Well, you feel better now?
no, I feel angrier now, actually.
I'm just
I'm
letting
the
you vent,
opposite, you
but
know,
I mean-
yeah, I vented, but I actually feel more angry after talking about it, but,
so Danny, if the CEO, say, took another job now,
yep,
went someplace else, wonder what the starting pay would be for a new one that you were gonna try and hire?
I don't know, that's a good question.
You know, I mean,
Now the base is set higher though, so,
see?
Well, there does come the point that you do price yourself out of a job in certain situations.
I know that.
I mean, that's a real factor in the marketplace.
And with government
I mean,
mental health stuff,
that's-
there's never anything certain because they'll pull things real fast. Pull the
It's a
plug on
hot
something.
topic right today.
Yeah,
You know, post-COVID, it's a very hot topic, but will it be 5 years from now?
yeah,
You know what I mean? And there will be other programs
No
and
one knows how
changes
to deal
between
with
then
it.
and now.
yeah. Knowing how to deal with it, and the congressmen sometimes just say, "Well, I don't know."
Dollars. That's what you-
That's it.
That's a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of one
That'd be
committee
a
is all-
record. That'd be a record for you.
I
so-
know, and honestly, I
I was
told
about
all
ready
this.
to pull
I
the
told
plug.
all this to Beth before too, so she doesn't feel like she has to be. Like I said, I called her up.
Miss-
She's in the loop.
So was it unanimous coming out of the exec committee? Did they say that?
Some wanted to split the pay in by half, you know, half this year, half next year. I don't know exactly what the breakdown was, but the consensus. Basically, Beth was the dissenting person in that part in terms of she wanted to do at least half. But the rest, you know, is what it is.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
On the 21st, I had a Vets Council meeting. Went to Vets Council meeting. Couple things coming out of there. The Vets Council does a very good job for the veterans within the county. One thing that I think, I don't know how many of you here know, but the vets, they have 3 vans.
Two.
Two. Two that get used quite a bit. I couldn't remember if they had a third or not, but the Vets Council actually purchases those vans and then donates them to the county, and the county maintains them. So the vets, and they're looking at trading one of the vans right now, their older one, and upgrading. So they've got, I think they're about 3-4 years apart. So they're gonna look at purchasing another van. They actually approved to go out, get some bids and stuff on that. They put on a lot of miles on the vans and do a lot of rides per year. I don't have them numbers in front of me. The other thing that's interesting, Tim Steiner, VSO, was reporting that Litchfield is being looked at for a CBOT, which is a citizen, county-based, it's basically a clinic, a VSO clinic for veterans. So they're looking at options to set up an actual clinic here in Litchfield. They're doing outstate, the VSO program in the state is putting some outstate clinics in Litchfield because of its active veterans involvement and number of veterans. This is one of the locations, so that we'll kind of stay tuned to that, and hopefully that's something that we could get locally would maybe cut down on some of them trips to St. Cloud and other areas too. So so that's kind of exciting news, that CBOT. The other thing, Grove City Care, I talked about a little bit. There's a couple things there. They just messaged me, they wanna have a meeting today, an exec board meeting. There's some discussion both on the Senate file and some of the things that the harm that the move on the Senate and House would do to hurt the small nonprofits and their funding sources over the course of the next biennium. And then also the city is at the same time is looking at a rental, charging them rent where they're at in the building, and that had been waived, for some, well, permanently, so there's some discussion with the city moving forward on that. So there's been a little, excitement over at Grove City Care, so.
It's a double whammy, huh?
Yeah.
And they, like I said, they're a small budget, you know, I mean, they don't
Sure.
spend a lot, they don't have a lot of money to work with, and they do a lot of outreach within the community. And other than that, those are the biggest things on the agenda, other than the work session that we had that
Has the
day.
vet council seen Tim as a positive thing, or how are they reacting to that so far? Is it
Yeah,
too
I
early to
think
tell?
it's been good. I'm glad I've sat in 2 meetings now. The Vets Council meeting, I should state that maybe is a quarterly meeting, so the next one will be in July. And I'm trying to get there and just basically educate, bring more information back to the board as some of the things that they're doing, and I think right now it looks to me like there's a good collaboration developing between
That's good.
Tim, the VSO, and, there's discussion, they wanted, Tim to be on the checkbook for the Vets Council, and there's a lot of discussion. I guess my comment, and this was offline, to a gentleman approached me at Manana at the pancake supper one day, and who's on the Vets Council, and I said, I really don't think you want a county employee on a checkbook like that, because then you actually open yourself up to a county audit, which actually by statute, I would say we probably have to do if we have a county employee handling funds,
Was the previous VSO the treasurer?
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah, so we're,
Was his predecessor.
Oh, so it was, that's just what they were used to in the past.
yeah, so it's
It's a
just
paradigm
trying
shift,
to educate everybody that careful what you wish for type thing, because,
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out why they would be part of it in the first place.
yeah, and
I
that's,
didn't
and that's
understand.
kind of our, the discussion, a little bit of discussion I had, I shouldn't speak too much to it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really what you want, because
I
if
wouldn't.
you understand all the details that go with that, you probably don't
I'd
want
like
that.
some separation, I don't know, from a logical standpoint, but if it's,
Well, if they have fiduciary access to money and there's a problem, it looks bad on the county.
Well, but those, and from a Vets Council is organization that's doing good grassroots work at a county level, servicing, that's your one-on-one contact with your veterans, really, you know. And if you don't want the county auditor, whether that's the state or now it's gonna be, I forget who we got now, but they're gonna audit your funds. And it's not necessary, number one, and it's like I said, be careful what you wish for, because you really don't want that. Just do your thing like you're doing on your own very well, doing a good service to your veterans and doing a good job for your county. And, I think they're gonna come together on that. I mean, there's just been some discussion on it. I'm not, but I think Tim is fully aware that's probably not a great idea. And he's talked to other VSOs around, and he said that they've all said too, no, you don't wanna do that. They don't do it in their counties and stuff too, so. That's probably, you know, like I said, there's some learning curves between, new VSO and the Vets Council, but the Vets Council's doing very good work, within the county and do a lot of good things for the county, for, like I said, with the vans and things too, so. And that's the reason why they're looking at Litchfield for one of these CBOT clinics, so, to have an outstate clinic, and that'd be really good, a really good thing, so. And, that is about all I had, so. In a matter of time and keeping things moving, I would look for a motion to adjourn if there is nothing else to come before this board.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson,
second.
second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. All in favor, please say aye.